Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we've got another Bad Batch review, and just going to quickly preface this review by saying that Ismail's not here today. He's feeling a little sick, so giving him some time off, and I'm going to do this review on my own. And also, just wanted to say from me and Ismail, a huge thanks, because we passed 100 subscribers a few days ago, so we're going to have a proper video addressing all that stuff soon and talking about what our plans are for that. But yeah, huge thanks for 100 subscribers. Sorry we haven't been uploading for the past few days and as consistently as we usually do. Life's just been really hectic, but hopefully now, next few weeks and hopefully in the coming months, we'll be able to upload on a more regular basis. And I've still got a few videos to make. Still got to talk about the Venom Let There Be Carnage trailer. There's a few other videos that we have in the pipeline, so just stay tuned. But anyways, let's get straight into the Bad Batch. This week we've got 2 episodes. The second episode, which I believe was called Cut and Run, I think. I'm just going to quickly check Disney+. And the reason I'm doing 2 episodes is, again, last week just really busy, so didn't have time to review the second episode in its own video, so you get 2 reviews this week in one. So, yep, Cut and Run, which was the second episode, and the third episode, which was Replacements. So I guess I'll go straight into spoilers for the second episode, since I assume most of you have seen it by now. The second episode, in my opinion, out of the 3 episodes I've seen so far, was probably the weakest one, in my opinion. Now, it wasn't bad. I did actually enjoy the episode. There were a lot of moments that I really did enjoy. First of all, of course, seeing Cut Lawquane again, who, of course, was from Clone Wars Season 2, I believe, in the episode The Deserter, where, of course, we see Captain Rex go and talk to and find a clone deserter who has his own family with a Twi'lek and all that stuff. But the Twi'lek's name's Sue, obviously. I'm just like saying that for people who haven't seen the Clone Wars. But yeah, we did see more of Cut, and I thought the stuff with Cut was really interesting, and it was good to see his family that's kind of grown and well, not grown, but like the kids have grown up, and him and Sue are still living on their farmland sort of thing. And of course the Bad Batch go and meet up with Cut and talk to him, and the whole thing, seeing Cut, I thought that was really interesting. And he mentions that Rex had been through and talked to him a few days ago. I think he said a few days earlier. And Echo said, "Where's he gone now?" And obviously Cut doesn't know where Rex is. But that was just great. The stuff with Cut, I thought that was really interesting. And even, obviously, Omega kind of coming off the ship and seeing space and a planet for the first time, I thought that was really interesting. And her kind of being fascinated by what dirt is, because, of course, she's never seen anything like that on Kamino, which is the only planet she was on. It kind of reminded me, as I said in the first review, of how Rey was in The Force Awakens when she came to Takodana and she was kind of looking around, and even in The Last Jedi where she like puts her hand under the water on Acto and kind of lets the water land on it, she's like fascinated by it. I thought it was a really kind of interesting moment for that character. And there's a lot of kind of interesting cutesy moments with Omega and especially Hunter, who they're trying to play off in as a kind of father-daughter relationship, I feel, which is a little weird considering she's technically his sister, I guess, since she's a clone as well, but I'm willing to look past that. But the whole episode generally was mainly about getting Cut and his family off planet, of course, because chain codes have become a thing now, which the general plot of the episode was pretty interesting, but it was a little bit slow. I was talking to my friend about this episode because he only watched it yesterday, and even he was saying, yeah, it's a little bit slow, which I don't mind slower stuff in Star Wars, but the thing that I'm getting a little bit worried about with this show is potentially, could it just follow the formula of The Mandalorian, and how many other shows could follow that, where, as I said in the first review, could it just be the tough character gets softened up by a kid show, because we even have the scene and storyline in this episode where Hunter says to Cut and Sue that I want to leave Omega with you because it's her chance to have a better life, just like in The Mandalorian where Din wanted to leave Grogu on Sorgan in the 4th episode of Season 1 when he's like, I'm leaving him here because I don't, like, my life isn't the sort of life for a kid and all that kind of stuff, which I thought is interesting up to a point, provided they don't keep doing that. But the good and interesting thing about this one, as opposed to The Mandalorian, is that Omega gets to make that choice for herself. She doesn't have to be forced to listen to what Hunter says, because obviously with Grogu, he's a little baby. He can't exactly say to Mando that I want to stay with you, but Omega actually gets that choice, and she's even like, when Hunter breaks the news to her that she's going to go with Cut, that she was kind of sad about that. And another moment I liked in the episode with Omega, Cut, and Hunter, especially with Cut trying to teach Hunter how to be a father in a way, was when Omega goes out with the fence to get the ball, like outside the fence to get the ball that her and I don't remember Cut's kids' names, but they were playing with it, and then the Nexu comes after her. I think it was a Nexu. It looked like one, but comes after her and starts trying to kind of intimidate her. Then Hunter starts screaming at her, saying, "What were you doing?" And then Cut comes and explains to Hunter that she's not a soldier, so obviously that's them kind of showing that Hunter doesn't know how to handle kids. And even in the first episode, Crosshair, I think it was Crosshair, says to Hunter that kids clearly aren't your speciality, which obviously we can kind of see the progression they're trying to go for, where Hunter is going to grow into the father role for Omega and grow into being able to take on that position as opposed to just begrudgingly bringing her along, which I really think is an interesting story. Again, up to a point, because I'm really hoping that they don't copy The Mandalorian with how that show did it and do the same thing over and over again. I really hope that it's its kind of own original take, which if it is, then that's great, and I'll be really interested to see that. But if not, then I think I'll give it a pass for this show, but if it happens a third time, then I'm going to kind of start asking myself some questions. Or not asking myself, asking Disney some questions, I guess, about how much originality do they really have with all these Disney Plus shows that they got coming up. But the whole rest of the episode is pretty much Tech and Echo form a plan, well, mainly Tech, forms a plan to get the Bad Batch's shuttle seized by the Empire, and then they can use that to kind of get into the Imperial, like, hangar thing to go and fake some chain codes, pretty much. And because obviously if Cut registers for there's so many clones in the show, it's just, it gets confusing. If Cut obviously registers for a chain code, they're going to realise he's a clone, and then bad things will happen. So the whole episode is mainly about getting Hunter and getting not Hunter again. I don't know why I keep saying that. Getting Cut and his family off planet, which was pretty interesting for the most part. The action scene at the end where they were kind of fighting the they're not really stormtroopers now, they're still in clone armor, but the evil clones, the Imperial clones, I guess, Imperial clone troopers is probably the term they'd use, where they were fighting the clones. I thought that was cool. But for the most part, the second episode is a pretty basic kind of by the books sort of episode. It wasn't exactly some big revelation, like big revealing episode. Unlike the third episode, which we'll move on to now, because the second episode, of course, I guess just to quickly wrap that one up, ends with Omega staying with the Bad Batch and going off to mainly say to Hunter that obviously I want to stay with you, this is my choice, so let me, pretty much. And Hunter's like, okay. So then that brings us to the third episode, where we kind of have two separate plots going on, because in the second episode, Crosshair didn't appear in that episode at all, but in the third episode, Crosshair is in there a lot, and it's kind of split into two stories, and the episode is called Replacements because we get a little bit more development as to what Crosshair's doing with the Empire now, and he gets his own clone legion sort of thing, but they're not clones, they're in clone armor. It's black clone armor with obviously the green visors, which we saw action figures of a while ago, and they looked cool, but they are actually Imperial kind of recruits, or what was it? I guess it's not really conscription, but it's people who signed up to join the Empire to fight for them, and they're not clone troopers, obviously, which is interesting because Project War Mantle, which is the project that Tarkin and Vice Admiral Rampart mentioned in this episode, is actually an Easter egg to Rogue One, and they kind of explain what that is now, because in Rogue One, of course, when Jyn and Cassian are getting the Death Star plans out of the, it was like that machine thing on Scarif, they say a bunch of different projects, and they say like Black Saber was one, and then another one which was War Mantle, and that's what this is, where they're going to recruit new people to replace the clones. And of course, in this episode we get the first hint of that. I think that the stuff with Crosshair in this episode was extremely interesting, where they had, for example, a scene where Crosshair kind of burns all a bunch of Saw Gerrera's civilians, which, I mean, that was dark. I was really surprised they didn't show it, obviously, but they had a scene where Crosshair kind of goes back to Alderaan and finds Saw's group, and Tarkin says that they're going to send these lot there to see if they'll do what the Bad Batch couldn't, and Crosshair goes and shoots a few of them and then says, "Where's Saw?" And they say, "We don't know." And then he kills them anyway, and then one of the Imperial recruits says that obviously this is wrong, there's no reason to kill them, they're not harming us in any way, and they don't know, so we're not executioners, we're soldiers. And then Crosshair just straight up shoots the guy and kills him, and then says to the other clones, well, doesn't say to them, but pretty much hints that, "Do what I say or I'm going to kill you too." And they get a flamethrower and set all the freedom fighters on fire. And they don't show it on screen, obviously, because the show is for kids. But, I mean, that was dark. That was very good and very dark. And I'm really interested to see how dark the show will get with stuff like that. I'm really happy that they did something like that, because it kind of shows how big the shift from the Republic to the Empire was, especially if you watch the end of Clone Wars and you see how loyal the clones were to the Jedi. And then now you look at Crosshair, especially with him just constantly repeating that line that Tup said in Clone Wars, and he's, of course, Crosshair said it in the first episode of Bad Batch, where he says, "Good soldiers follow orders." That kind of just shows what's happened to the Empire, or what's happened to the clones and the whole kind of system since the Clone Wars, which obviously wasn't that long ago, so it's a big shift really quickly. I just find that idea really interesting. Unlike the stuff with the Bad Batch in this episode, which I didn't, if I'm being honest, I didn't particularly find very interesting, because they have, as I said, it's pretty much split into two plots, where they have one plot with Crosshair and his new battalion of Imperial soldiers, who don't get named, by the way, and one of them, I don't know if this was just me, but one of them bear a striking resemblance to Iden Versio, which I thought was interesting, but I don't know if it was intentional or not. I guess we'll find out. None of them really talked, aside from, I think, two of them talked. But yeah, I thought that plot with Crosshair and his subordinates, I guess, was interesting. But then we have the Bad Batch's plot, which is they get trapped on some, well, not really trapped. They land on a moon, crash land on a moon, and there's these creatures who are stealing their power supplies from their ship or their power core, whatever it was. I can't remember what it was. And they feed off energy, so of course the Bad Batch's ship's power core gets stolen, and Hunter and Omega go to get it back. And I didn't think that the plot was bad, and I didn't think the episode in particular was bad, like when this stuff was happening. Every time it cut back to the Bad Batch doing their thing with this kind of, I don't want to say subplots, it's the main characters in the show, but I guess Crosshair is one of the main characters too. It's like Ninja Turtles, where it focuses on multiple characters. But the thing is, for me, I wish this kind of took a Clone Wars route, where in Clone Wars they had obviously various episodes focusing on the different characters. That show had a lot of characters to focus on. Obviously we had Obi-Wan, Anakin, Ahsoka, Rex, Yoda. Some episodes dedicated to characters like Kit Fisto, Plo Koon. We had just loads of characters in that show. Whereas with this show, they've seemed to have gone a slightly different route, where it seems more like it's a mixture of Rebels and Clone Wars style, where Rebels, of course, focuses on all the characters in one episode most of the time, as opposed to having individual episodes for the different characters. But the thing for me is, if the stuff with Crosshair is more interesting, focus on that, because I'd rather see that. I mean, maybe that was just me. I don't know if anyone else felt that way. Let us know in the comments if you felt that way. But the thing for me was, I don't know, it didn't the stuff with the Bad Batch, like, there were some good scenes, of course, like when Omega kind of proves to Hunter that she can do her own thing when she goes and gets the power core from the beast without murdering it, obviously. And Hunter even kind of says, like, they have a moment where Hunter's talking about each of their abilities, that they have each individual abilities, where I'm thinking that could play into the idea, maybe, that I saw a theory on Instagram, and I'm thinking this could be a possibility that maybe Omega has all of the Bad Batch's abilities, or she has, like, so she's smart like Tech, strong like Wrecker, has good aim like Crosshair. We know that she has good aim because of the first episode, and in this episode she kind of proves her tracking skills, as they call it, where she proves that she's like more like Hunter than Hunter thinks. So I thought that was an interesting theory from people, but whether it comes true or not, I don't really know. But I thought that overall the stuff with Hunter and Omega, which was mainly the two Bad Batch members it focused on in this episode for the scenes with the Bad Batch, I thought it was okay, but it wasn't all that interesting. There was one scene I really did like at the end, though, where Wrecker, of course, did go out because he bumped his head, in quotation marks, but I've got an idea about where that's going. And he's kind of touching his head throughout the whole episode and feeling it, saying that it hurts, or his head hurts. And then he goes later in the episode to the back of the ship and says to Omega, "Come here, I've got a surprise for you," and shows her that he built her a room. So I thought that was a really sweet moment where obviously Omega kind of is part of the crew now and has her own part of the ship and all that. I thought that was good. But the thing is, Wrecker keeps touching his head, and that's either one of... Well, I've got two theories as to what's going to happen to Wrecker. The thing with his head is probably going to be that his chip will get activated somehow, or it'll do something to him. I don't know what. That it'll cause him to, I don't know, maybe turn evil, I don't know. But every emotional moment or every emotional beat in this show seems to be with Wrecker. So my guess is that they're either going to have him turn evil with the chip, have the chip do something else to him that's going to mess him up, or he'll die. Those are my, I said two possibilities, but now I just thought, three possibilities. Either he's going to turn evil, the chip's going to do something to him and mess him up somehow, or, again, third option, he'll die. Because, I don't know, I have that... sometimes I just get gut feelings about these things, and this is one time where I have a gut feeling that could happen. But, I mean, who's to know? I guess we'll have to find out in later episodes. But... yeah, the episode kind of ends with them kind of showing that room that Wrecker made for Omega. But there's also another scene just before that I thought was interesting, where the Kaminoans are talking and they're saying that the DNA that they use to make the clones is deteriorating, Jango Fett's original DNA, that the clones can't be rendered obsolete, because of course that's going to basically put them out of business, which Tarkin and Rampart are planning on doing by having that new initiative where they recruit regular folk to become Imperial soldiers, which we know does come true, obviously, because the Stormtroopers and all that stuff in the original trilogy and Rebels. But they said something about getting the DNA, that they only need one of the special clones for the DNA, or they said something to that effect, which I assume means they're going to try and replicate the Bad Batch's, I guess, not really defects, but their special abilities. They're going to try and replicate them somehow. Maybe they'll use Crosshair, or, I don't know, they could do a bunch of things. They could maybe somehow try and get Omega back. Maybe it'll be like The Mandalorian, which, again, I really hope it isn't like this, because I don't just want, even though I do love The Mandalorian, it's an amazing show, but I don't want every Star Wars show to be like that, where maybe the Empire will try and go after Omega, or, I guess not the Empire, the Kaminoans will try and go after Omega to get her back, so that they can use her DNA and make more clones, maybe? I mean, that's my best guess. But the overall opinion for this show so far, based on the first 3 episodes, I'm really enjoying it. I mean, I don't think it's as good as Clone Wars yet, but obviously it's 3 episodes. It's like a bit of a stupid comparison to make, in my opinion. But I think that it's a nice blend of Clone Wars and Rebels, I feel, because it kind of follows Rebels' structure, where it focuses on all the characters, but then it also has Clone Wars' sort of animation style, animation quality, and the action kind of reminds me more of Clone Wars. But I think overall so far I'm actually really enjoying this show. I mean, the first episode is still the best one in my opinion. Then I'd probably say the third one, then the second one, because I really did enjoy the stuff with Crosshair in the third episode. But I guess that's about it. So if you guys did watch these last 2 episodes of Bad Batch, be sure to let me know the opinion that you guys formed of the episode down below. Be sure to hit the subscribe button for more videos like this. Be sure to like the video, to share it around YouTube. Be sure to check out our Instagram link in the description. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. See ya!